That's crazy.
So it's a good God story.
Yeah.
And I love paying that forward.
They all are, you know.
We have friends from all
My bad.
forms of spirituality or not,
Mm-hmm.
and you share that and you go, tell me there's no God.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I say
Tell me
it.
there's no,
Don't tell me. Yeah, for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Right.
Just no way.
or from a healthcare perspective as nurses, how
How
does this
does-
all work?
Exactly. Exactly.
Man.
Amazing. All right.
Agreed.
Here we go. 3, 2. All right. Hey, guys. I'm Will. This is Mark. Today we have our guest, Rich. And together, all right, we are the Amen Podcast, a man's evangelical narrative. Today we are going to be focusing on Romans 12. But before we got started today, we were just getting to know Rich a little bit of small talk. And he has an amazing, amazing testimony. Can you give us a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. And thanks again for including me and inviting me. I appreciate
Anytime.
that. I was sharing most recently a testimony of survival and miracle, where a good friend of ours, mine, we were involved in an unfortunate accident where we were riding our bikes. We were hit by a drunk driver on Cinco de Mayo, and her blood alcohol level was 1.5. It was a hit and run, and ironically, she was arrested about a mile away by the son of a very good friend of ours, and he is a rookie Newport Beach police officer. And so if you look at the pictures and hear the story, you realize that it was an absolute miracle that I'm here today.
Yes.
Nobody survives that. I happen to work in healthcare. I know the both of you do as well. And if you share the story or the pictures, as I have with people that I work with, and they go, zero chance that anybody survives that. As a matter of fact, the trauma doctor called me the next day. It happened on a Friday night, Cinco de Mayo, like I said. And he called me the next day, and he goes, I just want to check on you and see how you're doing. And needless to say, I had my bell rung, pretty good.
Obviously, yeah.
24 staples in the back of my head, amongst other things, stitches and broken things. And I said, well, I got my bell rung pretty good. And he goes, I got to tell you, he goes, I've been doing this for a long time. He goes, when they called in what happened, a guy on a bike being hit by a car doing 35 miles an hour, he goes, I didn't think you'd be DOA. He goes, but I didn't think you'd make it.
Wow.
And so, the fact that I'm here with
Sitting with
you
us.
gentlemen this morning is a true blessing.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And, well, hold on. Because this, that's incredible, obviously. But the second story is even more incredible. The airplane.
Yes. Please tell.
If you don't mind.
No, not at all. I laugh about it now.
Right,
But back in 1989, my wife and I lived in Oklahoma, and I've always been interested in aviation. So I decided to get my license. And so I was getting ready for my long cross country, and I was with an instructor, a new instructor, because you kind of go through instructors back then. And I said, I'd like to focus on emergency procedures. And he goes, great, I'd love that. And so we were up about 2,500 feet. And he goes, we're going to, and he terminated the fuel line. And it's a high wing plane, Cessna 152, and it's gravity fed. Every other instructor prior to that took me to 5,000 feet. So you had a little more altitude and more time to recover. And he would tell me, he goes, by the way, we're going to practice emergency procedures. And so I'd be prepared. This instructor did not tell me. He did it at half the altitude at 2,500 feet. And and the throttle is a push-pull, so I could see him do that. There's a dial between the seats, and it's left tank, right tank, both tanks, and off. And as I'm flying around Tulsa International, there's a lot of activity. The engine just quits. And I look at him, and I said, did you do that? And he said, yeah, what are you going to do? Okay, I go through the procedures as I'm supposed to do and trained to do. We didn't have enough altitude or time to restart the airplane. And so it was like a cold Minnesota morning. He's trying to start the engine and going rah, 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 rah. And so I'm on the headset saying, Tulsa approach, Cessna 89524, Mayday, Mayday, we have an engine out, we're going down, please clear one way, 17 right. It was pretty clear at the time, so approach says you can have 17 left, you can have 17 right, you come on in. And we were a glider at this point. It was called dead stick, and there's no pun in that. But so as we were coming in, very heavy, wings full of fuel and two heavy guys, and and I turned to my left because that was my line of sight and the visibility. I just knew we weren't going to make the airport. There's zero chance. And I look ahead, and I saw a school way off into the distance, but I knew we wouldn't have cleared this forest and trees to make the school.
Wow.
So, it's by the grace of God, and I felt him as my co-pilot sitting behind us. We went through these trees, a forest, and as I'm telling you the story, I can still, in my head, hear the because silent cockpit.
Right.
Why we didn't hit a branch, a trunk, it's an absolute miracle. So we tunneled, literally canoed through the tops of these trees, and the instructor, one thing he did do right was he pushed the yoke, which is the kind of the stick, forward, which drops the nose, and we porpoised onto the 16th fairway of Mohawk Park Golf Course.
Wow.
Totaled the plane, as you can imagine, broke the nose struts, the wings curled up and everything else. And so, as we're tilted up, I look at him and he looks at me, are you okay? Are you okay? And we finally got out of the plane, and this is a story that I'm not proud of, but he goes, you can't tell anybody. And I said, excuse me? And he goes, I just graduated from Embry-Riddle. It's an aviation school in Prescott, Arizona. He goes, I just got married and I'm $25,000 in debt, and this will ruin me.
Oh my
And as a recovering hothead, I have to emphasize, I just I cold cocked him. I just hit him square. And he broke his nose and bleeding fairly profusely. I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
And 2 helicopters landed. And one was life flight.
Get that mic closer to your mouth. Closer. We'll edit this.
Okay.
We'll edit it.
Is everything I just said
It was great.
recordable?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He just wants it closer.
Closer is better. And for you too, like this is kind of dropping.
Okay.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
because I'm
Okay.
trying to adjust it.
How's that?
Am I good here?
You tell me. It's good for me. If it's good for y'all.
Is that good? Right
Yeah.
there? Eddie?
Yeah, that is gonna be good.
Okay.
Very good.
Perfect.
There.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Where should I pick up?
You punched him in the face.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay.
You punched him in the face.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
again,
I like that
I'm
part of the story.
not proud of this, but and again, as a recovering
Yeah,
hothead,
hothead.
and I have to
Okay.
emphasize recovering. The emotion and everything just came over me, and I just cold cocked him, just pounded him.
Yeah.
And he was bleeding, broken nose, and then like I said, the 2 helicopters landed, Life Flight and Tulsa Police. And the NTSB and the FAA, I mean, they were there on the spot because they had enough time to deploy.
Prepare,
and
right.
It was really close to the airport.
Right.
And so they take him away. I never saw him again.
Wow.
And the FBO, or the person that owned the plane, and the NTSB, they lifted up the cowling because it was in October and it's a little chilly. They determined that it was carburetor ice, which is common with a small plane like that.
Okay.
But it wasn't carburetor ice, and so I had to tell them what happened. And I've always been schooled to, hypothetically, you fall off the horse, you get back on.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I don't get back in a plane, I'm probably not going to get my license. I'll probably never fly again.
Yeah,
So
ASAP.
about an hour later, I was in another plane, twin engine, just in case.
Just in case.
So twin engine plane, and we flew over the crash site and the trajectory and the glide path, and that's when I kind of realized. I mean, I knew that this was an absolute miracle the minute we stepped out of the cockpit.
Of course.
But when you saw the tree tops and all the leaves V'd from our plane, and the like I said, the trajectory and the path, you go, there's zero chance that
That you
somebody
should have
survived
survived
that.
Yeah.
So
Were you a believer at that point?
I was a seeker.
A seeker.
You know, I was raised.
As every young man is,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
was
you were
raised
26?
Catholic.
So you were 26 at that time?
I was 27.
Yeah.
Oh, 27. Yeah, so
Seeker.
young man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, and my parents divorced when I was really young, and I knew that and at least in our church, Catholic church, when our church ostracized my mom for getting a divorce, even at 12, I just knew this wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I was a seeker,
Yeah.
you know, and so explored other faiths and religion, and candidly, I I call myself a follower of Jesus. You know, I
That's
just
beautiful.
want to be a follower of Jesus.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's what he asked for, right?
Yeah.
That's what he says, and he asked of us. So that's pretty amazing.
You know,
yeah.
he exercises grace, judgment, love, and forgiveness, and
Yeah.
it's a struggle for me every day to do so, but that's my intention.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, you know, your family was ostracized, right? Because
Yeah.
of their position. I want to bookmark that, and I want to come back to that at a certain point. I
Yeah.
think that's super important that we talk about that. But anyway, let's get into it. So Romans 12. I'm going to read the Message version. I love just how in depth that goes, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna read from there. This is gonna be verse 1 and 2. Okay. So it says, here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Right? We talked about those little nudgings. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. All right? That's verse 1 and 2. So give me your take on that, Richard.
Yeah.
You're our guest.
Yeah.
Let's-
No,
please.
the first word that comes to my mind is surrender.
Yes.
You know, I
yes.
just want to surrender, and it's tough. I mean, we're men. We want to fix it. We want to lead, and it's challenging each and every day. So you want to live to God's will, but it's, you know, I use the last example I just mentioned with the car crash, the bike crash and the car crash. It's hard for me, but I just want to surrender that and try not to worry about things I can't control, because God's in control ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge as men. I think
Yes.
that's a challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, like, me growing up, right? My father, you know, he died when I was 19, right? And now that I'm 36 now, and I'm a father, I realize all the things that he was trying to teach me, he was right. But, you know, my family dynamic, you know, he wasn't able to be there as much as he wanted to. Now that I understand that, and so when he was around, I bucked back. I was a butthole, right? Butthole teenager, young man, you know, thinking I knew way more than I did. And meanwhile,
there.
he just wanted what was best for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's the sense that I get here, right? Like, our lives should be for His glory, ultimately. And I feel like when that's the goal, everything under that umbrella turns out way better than we expected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like if we are pursuing positions and titles and this and that, right, for just for us, just so that we could say, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, CEO, president, whatever. That's where the glory stops, and then we're still seeking that validation in some way, shape, or form. But when we just do it and we say, you know what, God, you gave me this ability, you gave me this desire. All I want is for you to be glorified in what I do, right? In whatever position that I hold, right? If I'm, you know, obviously a father or a husband, you know, I want to take care of my family, right?
Yeah.
The right way. I want to speak well to them, even when I'm stressed and things like that.
Right.
That's gonna glorify God, because they're gonna be out in the world being the best versions of themselves, because they know that they are loved by the leader of the family, right? Because that's all we want to be. But I feel like a leader serves,
Correct.
right? Serves first and foremost, and you can't be a
Correct.
leader without serving,
Yeah.
Correct.
right? And so if we're doing the opposite, which is what the world tells you to do, then we're actually not being leaders.
Yeah.
Right? We're being tyrants, right? And but the I feel like that's destructive, and we become a shell of ourselves because we're not really in tune with what we really want to do, you know. But we are doing what we think the world is what's cool, or what's, I don't know. It's self-serving,
Yes.
you know. And so it's like this negative loop that we get caught in, but if we don't have that awareness of what we really are seeking or what we're really striving for, then you can't do anything about it. So that's why I think knowledge of not only God but of His Word, right? Because I really look at the Bible as a SOP, right? Like a standard operating procedures, right? Every company has one, and
It's life's manual.
I really do believe that. I really do believe that, and you can take it, and you can look at it, and you can look at all the stories in the Bible and the character. I don't mean characters in the sense of like they're not real, right? I do believe that they were real people at a place and time.
Yes.
But they had a role in the Bible, so in that sense, that's the word that I'm using. That's why I'm saying the word character. But we look at their experiences, we can learn from that, right? Just like you're telling me your story, right? I could take that and I can learn from that, and maybe right once we get to know each other more in depth, I can take something that you tell me and maybe not do that, so that I don't have to experience the same thing that you did, right? And same for you, and maybe hopefully vice versa. And that's the way I see the characters in the Bible, right? Not as fictional characters, but as lessons that hopefully I can learn from in advance.
Yes.
And so so that's my take on verses 1 and 2.
For me, the word that stuck out was immaturity and maturity. I think I'm in a season in my life right now where I'm accepting that in certain parts of my life I'm immature. And it feels weird.
I feel hesitancy from you when you say that.
Oh man.
And I mean that in a loving way.
There's a lot, because I'm the oldest of my 3 sisters, only boy, and my dad, my mom are involved in my childhood, but it was just in Nigerian culture, it's a big responsibility being the son, right, and then being the only son, and you just learn things that you got to be the leader. You got to learn how to be a leader. And, when I think of a leader, I think of somebody mature. I think of somebody who's selfless, who serves. And, like we were talking before we got on here, being married has just really opened up my eyes on a lot of things that I need to be more mature in, and it's, when you kind of compartmentalize your career, your personal life, your things that you want to achieve, you don't necessarily put it all together. But there's this mentor that I follow, and he says, "Tell me how you do one thing, and I'll tell you how you do everything." And I think for me, I'm in a stage where I need to apply that maturity to all areas of my life, and to be more mature is to start diving into this Bible, and then start finding out what are those things that I'm lacking, so I can be mature. Because being mature is not sexy, it's not fun, it's hard work, and it pulls you into a place where you always have to be honest with yourself. And I think that's why you felt that hesitancy, because it's so scary to be honest with yourself on a daily basis and then have to correct that or seek help to do that. So that's the word that stuck out for me.
If I could interject,
please.
Of course.
We've just met, but
I love it.
I acknowledge and admire what you just said, because acknowledging that's even just accepting that and admitting that is the first big step.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kudos.
Lift this up for you.
And then
So kudos to you.
And society tells us, right? Like,
Thank you.
You basically, you can't admit weaknesses, or
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just don't talk
Man,
about them.
you don't.
How often do we actually get together
As a
with
man?
other
Exactly.
guys and talk about weaknesses?
And,
Right.
and admit it.
And
Right.
admit it.
Like, right? We talked about, right? We talked about cars, maybe the new position, how
Right.
much we're making, and this and that, blah blah blah.
Right.
But it's not sexy to be like, man, I felt tempted today, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Talk about weaknesses, and I feel like that is what women are so good at, and why they have like these lifelong
Their sense of community is
bonds,
amazing.
and they they can talk to each other, and it literally does something for them. And I'm generally speaking once again, but I feel like as men we're missing out on that love, like the love portion of it. Like, man, you're struggling, man. Let me just be here for you. I'm going through that too.
Yes.
Because when you find out someone else is going through what you're going through, or what you've gone through, you're like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm not alone in this world.
And you feel safe.
It feels safe, and it feels, even if it's something terrible, it feels good.
Yep.
It does. Because it's like, oh man, I'm not the only idiot in the world. You know what I
Amen.
mean? Yeah.
Well, part of my personal mantra is trust, integrity, and transparency. And just being transparent. And,
Yeah.
you know, that the Nile's not a river in Egypt. You know, I mean,
Right.
we know, just to
Yes.
admit and be accountable
Be accountable. Yeah.
is tough.
And that's
It's
the part
tough.
that's tough, right? Like at church, I asked for prayer, and on his own, the part of the prayer the pastor prayed over me was for vulnerability, right? Because we started going to a newer church, or a new church for us, and so it's been about a couple months, and so just getting immersed into the community. But what I realized, like I'm not very vulnerable.
It's hard,
with
man.
with the people that I actually want to connect with, and once that sort of started to happen, there was like a freedom in the relationships, right? Like when we talked, and I talked to you and Sol a few months ago now,
Yes.
right? And then every interaction, every session after that, it was like, I think you guys mentioned, like, we feel closer to you.
Very much.
Very much
closer,
and that,
yes.
that's what I yearn for, me personally.
Yeah.
But it's just like not knowing how to do that. But you gotta give something up, right? Whatever that image, that badge of protection that you think is over you by not being vulnerable, by saying that everything's okay, you're missing out on the love portion of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me. And so now my goal in every interaction is to be vulnerable, and just to be me, really.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's who I really want to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how was your day? Like, how was your day really? You know what I mean? It's like, And obviously, right, there's some discernment there. You can't just talk to a random person at the gas station. But, when we're in circles like this, it's like, it's okay, and
Yeah.
that's how fellowship happens, and brotherhoods and lifelong friendships and blah, blah, blah. And that's what we're after.
Isn't it easier to live your life vulnerable?
Absolutely.
In other words, without a facade, or
Right.
it's just easier. It's easier to
And
be
much easier, yes.
authentic and transparent. And hey, we all have warts, some bigger than most. I'm going to try not to make eye contact when I say that, because I'm loaded with those. But
Yeah.
it's just
we
easier
can
to live my
relate.
life.
But I can't necessarily speak for you, but like as a culture, right? Like, we are raised to not even like put your best foot forward, but to like put up a facade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so who has the best this? Who has the who's making this and this and this? And this is why I feel like it's so easy to fall into, some of the not so savory parts of like life, right? Like whether it's like, hip hop culture or drug culture, things like that, because we want things fast,
Yeah.
so that we can show you that we have something that we really don't. But as long as you think that I have it, then
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I
Right.
actually have it. It doesn't matter if my children actually have what they need. You know what I mean? As long as you think that I have this or that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm trying not to get too off track here.
Yeah, no, you're good. No,
But,
you're
No,
good.
it's all related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to get it. I'm going to start with verse 3,
Okay.
and then take us all the way to verse 6. All right,
Okay.
so hang with me. And if you need to stop me at any point, you want to interject, please do.
Oh,
all right?
okay, good.
If anything makes sense. All right, so Romans 12:3. So I'm speaking to you out of deep gratitude for all that God has given me, and especially as I have responsibilities in relation to you. Living then, as every one of you does, in pure grace, it's important that you not misinterpret yourselves as people who are bringing this goodness to God. No, God brings it all to you. The only accurate way to understand ourselves is by what God is and by what he does for us, not by what we are and what we do for him. Verse 4. In this way, we are like the various parts of the human body. Each part gets its meaning from the body as a whole, not the other way around. The body we're talking about is Christ's body of chosen people. Each of us finds our meaning and function as a part of his body. But as a chopped off finger or cut off toe, we wouldn't amount to much, would we? So, since we find ourselves fashioned into all these formed and marvelously functioning parts in Christ's body, let's just go ahead and be what we were made to be without enviously or pridefully comparing ourselves with each other or trying to be something we are not. So for me, I know I mentioned it to you before, but the way I see it is like we're all puzzle pieces, right? And so we're all uniquely shaped. Well, we all obviously have a purpose. But nowadays I feel like, we're all trying to be like a different version of like the same thing. Whereas if we honor our differences, right, be open and vulnerable, and make our weaknesses known, we can all fit together like a puzzle, and then the whole picture comes together. But if we're all trying to be the same piece, right, misshapen and this and that, but we're all trying to literally be the same piece, we're never, the piece of the puzzle is never going to come together. So just to go back to what we were just talking about, being vulnerable, right, being yourself, right, and allowing that to, I guess, let the love that we're seeking for just kind of come down. You know what I mean? That's the only way that this thing really works, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, kind of back to the grace, judgment, love, forgiveness thing that we were talking about earlier. But one of the pivotal words I think you mentioned when you first started the verse was gratitude.
Yes.
And we're all paying it forward, right, with our stories and testimonies. And two testimonies that come to my mind when you said that. We are blessed to have my mom on this planet for 91 and a half years.
Whoa.
Wow.
And from probably 80 years old on, she lived in Anaheim, so we saw her a lot. And I'd always kind of joke with her, because I do think that humor is medicinal. Mom, what's the secret to longevity? And I would joke and say, wearing a bikini or something like that. But she's, without a doubt, without skipping a beat, she'd go an attitude of gratitude. Yeah. And I want to pay that forward. And she's so true. I mean, it's just so much to be grateful for.
So
Even
much.
in the pits of despair, we have so much to be grateful for. I'm also in a Saturday morning men's group Bible study, and we've been together for 18 years now.
Wow.
And there's about 12 of us, and some have come and gone. And but we were talking about this last Saturday of just all the trials and tribulations we've gone through, and you name it, death, cancer, unemployment, homelessness. I mean, you name it, we've gone through it. But yet we're all of the same common denominator of just grateful. Yeah. And, back to paying it forward, one of our brothers, I wish I could take credit for it, he goes, listen, when I get up every single morning and I put my foot on the ground after I get out of bed, the first thing I do is I just say, thank you, God. Yeah. Thank you for another day. Thank you for breath. Thank you. And that just starts my day off.
His day off.
That's how I think we all, and I can't look you in the eye and tell you that I do that. I do it in the morning, but I don't necessarily walk that talk throughout the day. And I think shame on me, but I want to do that.
I think you're doing it right now, though. I think, the fact that you're here, you're talking about them, you're being thankful, you're talking about your testimony. I think that's an example of gratitude, and just to speak on what you were talking about, the puzzle piece, it was a beautiful illustration, by the way, because I think you're right. I think culture is that we're trying to be the same piece. Yeah. But the key that what you said was, I think if we start, the only way to identify if we have a problem or to make that puzzle fit, right, we have to talk about our weaknesses. Right. Jesus, when he was around, he talked about that a lot. Like, you didn't find Jesus you found him in let's just say modern day, trap houses, homeless places, where people are doing things that are not the greatest things, and he was putting himself there because it was easier to identify their weaknesses. And I think we live in a society today where we're always talking about our accomplishments. So we're hiding what we're weak on, right? But if we get in a community, like what you were talking about in your Bible study, in your men's group, we start talking about our weaknesses, we can start identifying, hey, how many times have you heard someone say, oh, I can help you with that. Oh, I have resources. Oh, I have that. And you start to open up, and then you start to put the puzzle together. Exactly. And you start to actually, the person who has those weaknesses, I'm in this common space, but I am different. And you start to also empower your friends that have those resources, oh, I can help. I have this talent. My friend is weak in this. They can help me. I'm weak in this. They can help me. And you start to see all the beautiful gifts that God's given us, right? Then and there. And I think that's another area of attitude and gratitude that you were talking about.
Yeah. In the Bible it says, right, enter into my gates with thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah. If you just meditate on that for a second, right? The moment we open our mouths and we get ready to pray, it needs to be
thank you.
The attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you, because that's going to put into perspective everything else that is on your heart.
Correct.
Thank you for what you've already done. You know what I mean? Just thank you for this breath.
Right.
Thank you for everything. You know, if it's in the morning, right? Thank you for blessing me to see another day. If it's in the evening, thank you literally for just to make it to and from wherever it was I was going today. You know what I mean? And then guess what? Okay, Lord, I need. You know what I mean?
I need this,
however you want to go about it, but
Yeah.
you got to start with Thanksgiving because that puts it all into perspective. You know, like I was talking to my therapist, and you know, I'm just going off and I'm just listing everything and you know that's wrong and this and that. And then
Therapist.
Oh yeah.
Am I right?
But he was pulling out of me. He was like, "Do you notice like a theme?" And you know, and he was, you know, nothing that I was saying was from that space of like I'm grateful, you know. And it made me think, you know what? Because there was a place in time when I prayed for literally everything that I have, but now, you know, when I in those moments when I lose, not the foresight, but sort of like that right mindset, right? The blessing has become a burden. You see what I mean? But when you keep when I realized when he showed me, you know, when you keep the right mindset, the blessing remains what it should be, and then you can continue to be a blessing. But when the blessing becomes a burden in your mind, then your actions follow. You start complaining. You start doing different things that's not lining up, and it's like it all starts from kind of that starting line of like a lack of gratitude.
And that can be toxic.
For sure.
You know,
It's so toxic.
You know, I jokingly say it's Bitterman Party of One. I don't want to be Bitterman. I want to be just grateful. I mean, and it's a journey. Just put it that way.
That's a good word for that.
It
That's
is.
a good word for that.
It
Yeah.
is. And I think, you know what, and that's another thing that I love about being back in the church. I get to be around men who are in a different phase of life than I am. Like, because it all started from a Bible study. We're doing a Bible study, studying Philippians. Man, so just by I'm saying that because just by coincidence, I happen to be the youngest guy in the group. I'm 36. Everyone else is older and established and this and that. But they all come with this humble, grateful attitude that they're still learning. You know what I mean? So we talk. They talk to me about their experiences, but in the most humble way. And they always say, "But I'm still learning." You know what I mean? And then they come to me, and if I say something that resonates with them, they'll tell me, "Man, that really resonated." And you don't see that a lot, right? In terms of, you know, whether it's position or age, right? There's always like a posturing, you know.
But
I'm older, so I'm automatically, you know, maybe not better than, but just whatever. Like, give me that respect just based off of that. And it's like, well, I don't really know you. I don't know your story, so how am I going to give you that respect, right? You get some measure of respect, but you know, but anyway, I think the lack of posturing and just the humility, it's like, wow. So even at my, you know, young age, you know what I mean? They allow me to still feel seen and loved, and then they let me know that it's okay for me to love on them too, right? And they're not just coming from a position of like power. There is no hierarchy. We're all the same.
They're
here.
humble.
You know
They're
what I mean?
humble men.
And that makes me just feel so good. You know,
That's amazing.
That's really nice.
That's amazing.
Anyone else want to touch on this before I get into the next verse?
Go
All right,
ahead.
cool. So we're gonna get into verses 6 through 8, 6b through 8 in the Message translation. It says, "If you preach, just preach God's message, nothing else. If you help, just help. Don't take over. If you teach, stick to your teaching. If you give encouraging guidance, be careful that you don't get bossy. If you're put in charge, don't manipulate. If you're called to give aid to people in stress, keep your eyes open and be quick to respond. If you work with the disadvantaged, don't let yourself get irritated with them or depressed by them. Keep a smile on your face."
Oh,
To
man.
me, right away, this
Oh man.
right, this reminds me of kind of what I was just talking about in terms of when the blessing becomes a burden, right? You got to keep perspective, otherwise you get stressed out, and then the people that you're trying to help become basically not your enemies, but you know, they become a little bit of a burden because you're like, you know what I mean? You I don't know, but also I think just, you know, slowing down and focusing on the fact that whatever we're passionate about, whatever we're good at, right? It's a gift. You know what I mean? It's a gift, and I think that when we are mindful of that, we have to be in a position to where we just always give praise and focus back to the Creator, because we know this didn't come from us, right? Like we were talking about, He gives us the desire and the ability, right, to expand on our gifts. So that's what I got from that.
You mind if I go?
No, please.
Okay. This one hit pretty hard for me. My therapist. But by the way, I recommend everyone have a therapist. Especially, I don't think we ever told anyone what we do.
What you mean?
In our show, I don't think we've explained like what we do for as a profession.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm
OnlyFans?
I'm an RN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a registered nurse. And I work in mental health, behavioral health, and it's a very big passion of mine. And working in a profession like that, my wife, she's an ER nurse, and so we're nurses. And shout out to all my nurses. We know how it could be very stressful for us, and we want to help. But my therapist told me something that I think that hits a lot of nurses, or just people who love to help. We have a blessing of being able to help, but we take it on as a burden sometimes, right? To the point to where my therapist told me, like, if something in there you said that don't be bossy, don't become depressed. She said if you're I asked her, what's the difference with being supportive and helpful and also not burning yourself out? And she was like, if there is emotion attached to it, when, for example, you're telling a loved one or a patient, like, you know what, you need to do this to make yourself better, and they said, I'm not going to do that, and you get upset, you feel a certain way, that's not support, that's not help, right? Your motive is not coming from a good place, even though you have the best intentions. And I struggle with that. That's part of the immaturity I was talking about. And so, because I love whoever I'm trying to help so much, but it's like, am I really doing this for them? Or am I doing this for me? Is this going to make me feel better, or is this going to make them feel better? And I feel like immaturity also comes from, like, a selfish standpoint. And so just hearing that is, I don't want to be bossy. Just like you were saying, you don't, what did you say earlier? You said,
I'm sure it was very
it was
profound.
Something. It was
I'm sure it was super, super
you said you were
important.
recovering hothead. I think you said, right?
That is true.
And you
That's a
don't
good
want it or be bitter, right? And I think that just remembering that, staying in your lane, and if you're going to help, do not attach yourself to that. You're doing a service, and if it doesn't work out the first time, you have the patience to say, well, try again. But you have to be able to detach yourself, because now that's becoming a burden. What your gift is of helping is now becoming your burden when it doesn't have to. So I just being grateful that, if I can be grateful and thank God for that ability, I think once I give my support or that wisdom that comes from Him to tell somebody that, I'm going to immediately say, thank you, God, for giving me that.
Amen.
And I just leave it at that and let the work happen.
Detach yourself from the result.
From the result. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility was, I pray, I got my gift, I said what I said, let it play out. Because He does that with us all the time. How can I be the judge and executioner when I just...
I think that's important, right? Mercy.
Right.
Mercy and grace.
Mercy and grace.
God has given us, obviously, just endless amounts of grace and mercy throughout all of our lives. Right?
Yeah.
But when we meet someone or you know what
It's
I mean?
our
Or something,
turn.
it's like, you better get this result right here, because I just gave you my help. There's no grace.
And the last thing is just that I've heard this several times, is we may be the only Bible that someone sees.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, that's heavy.
That's good.
It's heavy.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
anyway, what do you
Well,
think,
I
Rich?
was going to, again, commend both of you, because back to vulnerability and transparency, both of you shared with your audience you have therapists.
Yes.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
I do have a therapist. I'm not going to admit it, though. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
Too late.
I'm just joking. But yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's
It's really tough for a lot of men to admit that.
Weakness.
Yeah, it's a weakness. It seems like a weakness.
It's just
It's
sharing
vulnerability.
Sharing your vulnerability.
Yes,
Sorry,
no,
this
you're
is
good.
But
You're good.
Admitting that you don't have all the answers.
And I need a therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, do I have one? No, but
I can get you one.
You're encouraging me.
Yes.
Then paying it forward with me, because
we both got some good resources for you.
I
We can
think
talk off camera.
I think we all could use somebody to talk to.
Yes.
I say this to Mark all the time,
Rich.
Yeah.
right? And I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm trying to make
No,
this real
no,
quick.
no.
But you're going to talk to someone. right? Maybe your wife,
Yeah.
your best friend, someone that you trust that's going to listen, right?
Right.
Or these thoughts are going to be going around in a merry-go-round in your mind.
Yep.
And usually those aren't the most positive ones.
Yep.
Correct.
Right? Why not talk to a professional who's been trained on how to navigate these things with
Exactly.
you, or and help you navigate these things. And I think the thing that we forget is that also all these
Resources,
avenues and
yes.
resources,
Oh,
they're
say
a
it,
gift
say
from
it.
God.
Yes.
They're a gift from
yes.
God.
But it's for me, I'm just being totally transparent. It's kind of counterintuitive. In other words, I'm beating my chest. I don't need a therapist. Are you serious? Like, I can fix things. I can
Yeah.
do this on my. I have for X amount of years. BS.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
call
I
BS
was,
on
I was
that.
just about to say that.
Yeah, and that's
I was about to say
and
that.
that's
How's that
okay,
going
brother.
for you, bud?
How's that
going
Give me
for
some
you?
brotherhood on that one.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it's
Yes.
yeah, it's always good. And again, back to blessings. My wife and I we've been together 45 years.
Congratulations, man.
Married for 38.
Beautiful.
That's a blessing in
That's
itself.
a
But she's
blessing.
been with me, by the way, for 38 years.
Yeah.
But we have a very open, communicative relationship. We talk about everything. And we have 2 children and soon to be 2 grandchildren. We have one that's 2.5 and one that's
Oh, man.
our daughter's pregnant. But
Congrats.
yeah, thanks. Talk about a blessing there. But we
Congratulations.
hopefully instilled that, and I think we have, at least with our daughter and her husband. You need to talk, and it's just an open relationship, and no facades like we were talking earlier, and there's no topic off limit. Some might not be favorable, and
Right.
some
But that's
may be,
life. That's life.
but you have to put everything on the table.
Yeah.
Everything.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. I can talk about that forever, so
Yeah.
please move on because
But
Yeah,
I just on that, I
say it, brother. Take your time.
You just said it with your eyes.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
so, I have 2 older daughters that aren't, that I share custody with.
Yeah.
And, I love them so much. And
Yes.
all I want is for them to know, whether they're with me that weekend or not, that they can reach out to me and I got them. I'm there. They can tell me anything. You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
can tell me anything, because my number one fear is that they go through anything in life. I'm not thinking about necessarily the worst things, right?
Of course.
But they get anything through life and they don't have someone, or they think that they don't have someone that's there with them, or they think that dad is too whatever, busy, whatever, and he, and I'm not willing to listen. Like, I think I carry that even more so because they aren't with me full time. You know what I mean? And so I just want them to know I'm trying to work on being vulnerable, right? Because they're 11 and 9, right? So I'm not saying, all right, I'm gonna come to them and talk to them in the same way that I would you guys, right?
Correct.
But be vulnerable in the way so that they know I know everything about my dad. You know what I mean? I want them to know. I want them to know I know my dad.
Yeah.
I want
the
them
good,
to
bad,
know
and the
me.
ugly.
The good, the bad, the
Yeah,
ugly.
yeah.
Like my daughter the other day, my oldest daughter, she's like, Dad, you're so impatient. Like when we were in line, you were just, you know
That's
what I
a
mean?
fact.
And I need to work on it. I'm not patient. But she knows that about me. She called me out, and
Yeah.
she felt comfortable calling me out. And I want that open relationship. And I'm like, oh, and I yearn for that from them, just so But and now I'm trying to work on that with. Outside of that as well, but also be vulnerable with God, right? Because it's easy to, maybe you sit in your quiet place or you're on your knees and you're getting ready to pray or whatever, and you're in church, and you're just like, or you know what I mean? Just like big words and this and that, and it's just like, no, just come, just
As
be
you
you, man.
are.
Just be,
Yep.
and because that's when you get the real stuff off your chest. You know what I'm saying? And so, it's like, I know I said a whole lot. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, man. But I'm
It
just
did.
working on that as a whole. But me focusing on my girl, being vulnerable with my girls first, is showing me my lack of vulnerability that I've been with God. And so as I'm aware of that now, that's opening up, and I'm getting that fulfillment, and that His love is Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm opening up the door and I'm allowing his love in.
To come in.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Kudos again to you. I think you're on a good path with your 11-year-old for the fact that she could say that to you at 11 years old. Yeah. And I think it's a good influence. Did you have a 9-year-old? Is
Yeah.
that what you said? Yeah. So I think she'll be a good.
And I have a 4-year-old too. But, you know, but she's with me and
We should pray over you right now with the 3 kids.
Hey, right?
Yeah,
Three
yeah,
girls.
yeah.
3 girls.
Three girls.
Wait till I show you the
Rich,
picture.
you're
Takes
right.
a, takes a real man to
pictures.
have a girl, I know, but no, but that's very admirable that she at 11 has feels comfortable to be able to say that to you.
Yeah, and that's what I want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And call me out if I need to, whatever.
Yeah,
you know, that's
exactly.
important. So, all right, shall we move on? We good?
Yeah.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
nah.
I know you got some.
Man,
Come on.
it's just you know, my dad is just amazing to hear with both of you guys. You know, I'm not a dad yet, but I would have to say my dad. I recently told him that he was my hero, and you know, growing up, like my dad was always involved, but he also had this spirit of ambition, moving, and there's just one story that I could share on that's like, it was a big point in him and I's relationship. I love basketball, big basketball guy. Played since I was 6, and I had a talent, and I was I think 6 years old playing with 11-year-olds at the time. And there was a coach, and that was a friend of my dad's at the YMCA that said, "Hey, I think your kid can play. You know, we just need to bring him here." But we lived about like 35 minutes away, you know, LA traffic and all that. And so it was something I was really looking forward to. And there was a point where my dad was he was hustling, he was trying to get it, and he couldn't make that a priority for me. Financially, time-wise, for whatever reason. And of course, I'm a kid. I don't understand everything, right? So there's this moment in my mind that I always remember is where I was waiting to get picked up by him. I was on the steps, and I was waiting for him to pick me up to take me to practice. And he said he was coming, but he didn't make it. Hours went by, just stood there, and then obviously getting sad, mad about it. And I held that on him for a very long time. I ended up playing ball, in high school, but the support from my parents wasn't the way I wanted it to be, right? But the one thing is, as I grew up, like, just to hear like your kids is telling you, like, Dad, you're impatient. At that time, I couldn't. My dad was a very open guy, but it was just like I couldn't be that open, right? But as I got older, there was basically the perfect storm was happening to when I came back from college and kind of didn't really know where I was going. Me and him started going at it. And I was being super vulnerable with him, open, telling him things, things that were finally on my mind, and it got to the point where my dad made a choice, and his choice was I could just be, push him away. You can say whatever you want, I'm still your dad. And what he did was he would sit me down every weekend, and we would have long discussions. And he would talk to me about, like, where he, just talk. And I would finally get what I needed out and got the clarity of why he didn't pick me up that day. He was trying to do something for his family, but he didn't know how to manage all of it, and he didn't have the resource. He didn't have the community of men. He wasn't the only child in his family, but he just basically, his family wasn't very helpful, and he had to do a lot on his own, right? He had my mom, of course, but they were all trying to get it. So it was, to me, he did love me. It was just, but my mind growing up was like, oh, I wasn't that as important for that, But it was like, no, he was really trying to set me up with my education, where I am now, for perspective.
Matters, yeah.
And now we can tell him, like, now we can tell our dad, like, oh, you're this, you're that, and he's just
You
this
can joke around
about it.
about that event because you have a full picture now.
Full picture now, and so like, it's just, you just reminded me of that, and it's another grateful moment because he really is a representation of, to me, like, a real man trying to always be with God and walking with God.
And that really resonates with me because, like my share off camera, you know, my dad wasn't able to be in my life as much as he wanted to.
Yeah.
Right. But it took me, 36 years being a dad to understand that, right, the dynamics of a man and a woman. Right. It's not as easy
As assumes.
as you assume, right? A lot of relationships don't work out, and unfortunately sometimes, right, the little ones they have to deal with the consequences of that. But I say that to say I really resented my father early on. Because he wasn't around. I didn't get it. I just knew he just wasn't around, I was about 13. He was able to come back into my life, and he was trying to do now I understand he was trying to make up for all the time, right? He was trying to teach me how to be a young man. I was 13, right? Never had to clean my room, never had to cook a meal. Mom took very good care of me, and I love her to death for that. But when he came, he's like, look, you're gonna clean your room. You're going to wash these dishes. You're going to do this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to have me reading newspapers every Sunday. I can read, but I didn't like to. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, but in my mind, it was like he's coming in here and he's messing up my status quo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I got it good. And you want me to have responsibilities? Like, no way. But, and then just one day he was gone.
Wow.
And I was 19. I was still a knucklehead. But, I started to appreciate him, but it was just different. I still didn't have that mindset. And but he would sit me down when I would get in trouble or when I was off track, and he never yelled, never screamed. My mom is like 5'0" and a little meatball. She was the physical one, but my dad, 6'2", barely ex bodybuilder,
Wow.
so gentle, gentle. He would sit and he would just talk to me, and that would break me down more than anything else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I knew in my heart I disappointed my dad. But my young ego, was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? So it was a battle within. But then as I started to grow, and especially once he passed, I was just like, man, I really need him right now. You know what I mean? And so now I just reflect on those. And also I'm saying that to say, now my focus with my girls is, because I fall into that, I want them to be my friend because they're not with me all the time.
Yeah.
So I want them to at least know that I love them. But also in my mind, I'm like, I just need to plant the seed. Because all the things that my dad was trying to teach me then, right? Like maybe a lot of things that God tries to teach me in one season, it may not resonate. But my relationship with God, my relationship with my dad at the time, is just hold on to it, because it's gonna make sense one day. You know what I mean? And so that's something that I carry with me with my girls. Just plant the seed, just show them the way, right? Don't worry about the result. Don't worry about the result. Just do your job, do my job as a dad, and then you'll get to see what the fruit will be in the future. But it's not my. And so now I'm just like, thank you, God. Thank you for giving me my girls. I'm gonna do my part. But the stress of the result is not my. Because this is probably, I don't know if this is like just our thing or if this is like every dad, but right, the dads always say my job is just to keep them off the pole, right?
Yep,
It's a little
yep.
vulgar, right?
Out of jail.
But you know what?
Yeah.
In the most loving way possible. That's not me for me to worry about.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a dad saying, huh?
Yeah. I guess so.
You can mark that.
Okay.
Mark that,
yeah. I'm going to bookmark that for sure.
Keep them off the pole.
Yeah.
Keep them off the pole. All right. Let's reel it in. All right. So I'm gonna go through verses 9 through 13.
Okay.
So, love from the center of who you are. Don't fake it. Run for dear life from evil. Hold on for dear life to good. Be good friends who love deeply. Practice playing second fiddle. I really love that. Don't burn out. Keep yourselves fueled in the flame. Be alert, servants of the master. Cheerfully expectant. Don't quit in hard times. Pray all the harder. Help needy Christians. Be inventive in hospitality. Go ahead.
What resonated with me when you said second fiddle, both my wife and I were raised in Anaheim through the YMCA program in Anaheim. We both met at YMCA summer camp. And,
Wow.
Yeah, that's a blessing in itself.
Yeah.
But part of the upbringing within the YMCA is I am third. God first, others second, I am third. You mentioned, second fiddle, and that immediately came to my mind is, and I can't look you both I look you both in the eye, but my intention, I don't like the word hope in this regard. I like the word intentional. I do. I want to live my life and pay it forward as God first, others second, and I am third. And it kind of wraps up into the conversation regarding humility and everything else. And it's an easier way to live my life.
How are you practically doing that? Because I think we were
Yeah.
before we started, we were talking about you dressing up as Santa Claus. Like,
Yeah.
what other things, like how are you practicing? Because I think sometimes, as men, we we have our intentions, we say it, but sometimes we lack more detail. So
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
you can give that to us, that would be great.
Yeah, I wish I could have coined this phrase, but I call it a helper's high. And not everybody has it, and I'm not beating my chest on this one because it was how we were raised as I am third, right? And thankfully, thank you God, that my wife and I are on the same page.
Awesome.
We both love being philanthropic. We both we're blessed beyond our wildest dreams, and we just love giving it back, paying it forward, and giving back.
Yeah.
And part of that is, whether I'm a Santa Claus or we serve on a couple of nonprofit boards, the YMCA being one of them.
Oh, cool.
A few other specifically focused on children in Orange County.
Okay.
But we just love giving back, and it makes us, it grounds us. Yeah. We live in Orange County. We live in Southern California.
Right.
I live a mile from here.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I'd be living in not even a double wide. I thought I'd be living in a single wide mobile home somewhere. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just didn't.
Right.
Didn't think that's where I thought my destiny would take me, and here I am, with you fine gentlemen, and Gersh is my neighbor, and just a great community.
Yeah.
Blessed beyond my wildest dreams.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I love that. It's like, be okay with being second fiddle. I mean, for me, it just goes back to plant the seed. Don't worry about the result because you already did your part. I'm not one for attention. Honestly, like when the attention's on me, it makes me uncomfortable. But at the same time, when I do certain things, I'm like, it would be nice to get a thank you. You know what I mean? Like if I hold the door for someone and they don't say thank you, it kind of bothers me. You know what I mean?
Being real, yeah.
Just being honest. It really bothers me, and so. But then I settle myself down and I just say, you know what, you did your part. It's fine. They're probably going through something. I have to remind myself many times, right, where I'm just in my head. Got to pick up the girls or I don't know something. And so I try to remind myself to give grace also because. There's a lot of times, right, where they do say thank you, right? Or you get into one of those back and forth, like, you go first. You know what I mean? So little things like that. So it's really not like a big deal at the end of the day. But I love this verse because it's just like give love in a way that resonates with you. You know what I mean? Like I love you, right? And you love on me in a particular way, right? I try to give you your flowers all the time. Like you're a lot of things that I'm not. Right, and then you've expressed vice versa.
Yeah.
But right, that is what brings those puzzle pieces together
Correct.
to make a more complete picture.
Yeah.
But before, like years ago, I would have thought, okay, Mark is okay. I need to go. Where do you get that shirt from? Where do you know what I mean? I would have literally been trying to be just like you, because in my mind, that's you find a mentor, a big brother, and you emulate them if you want their result, not knowing, or not.
Recognizing?
No, not what's the word I'm looking for? Not realizing. I can't think of it. It's you're not expressing, and for lack of a better term, expressing what maybe they're not good at, or what they're in awareness.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of, once again, going back to being disingenuous, maybe not even disingenuous, but pulling up a facade. We don't show the. Like Instagram, it's a highlight reel.
Yeah.
You don't show, maybe a lot of the like your rough days.
Yes.
And so, if I'm trying to emulate that, then I'm just kind of putting myself in a deeper hole, But when I love authentically, and you know what, like I think you guys invited me out one time, right? I think it was for lunch or I don't know something, right? And I was just like, you know what, in this season, I don't have it. I don't have it.
Yeah.
Right. And
I was so proud of you about that.
And it felt like a part of me felt like it was dying because of your response. I felt like I felt loved because you were like, that's okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Whereas what I thought I needed to do was say yes, cancel later, then feel bad about it. And then I'm like, now I'm actually a jerk, right? For one, canceling last minute, but then also not giving them the real me, because sometimes I just don't have the energy.
Sure.
Right? Just say no when you need to, whatever. But to me, that's being like, that's loving authentically,
Yeah, Rich, I have a question for you. When it comes to what Willie just said, when it comes to marriage, someone told me like when things are not say you're not on the same page with your wife or something, that he told me is your wife isn't trying to hurt you, it's just that it's frustrating. Like there's a difference between harm and frustration, right? And I literally got that actually at my barber. My barber told me that today. And
Your haircut is fresh.
right, yeah, thank you, appreciate
very
it. Yes.
nice,
Shout
very
out to Spencer. So I just want to ask you, like, when you were in those moments, being married for so long, like, what did you practically do as a man dealing with those moments of frustration? Like, how did you handle that?
Wow. How long is this podcast? How long can we talk? Shall I order dinner? It's a journey.
Okay.
I mean, it's an absolute journey. Like I said, my wife and I have been together for 45 years, seamlessly married for 38, meaning we've had our little hiccups here and there, but nothing to the point where we even talked about the D word, not even part of our vocabulary.
Right.
But I think part of the success of a marriage is, and I don't know if it just applies to a marriage as it does to life, is very simply we versus me. So it's we versus, okay, me, Rich, and I don't have to be, and humility, right? I don't have to be right, and we're in this together. And like I said, I think it applies to life. It's we versus me. I think it keeps it super simple. I've had the very fortune of officiating a few weddings. Our daughter's being one of them.
Cool.
And I incorporate that into the ceremony. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It's just if you just keep it as we versus me, and not be selfish, and of course open communication, and I think laughter and love and trust, integrity, transparency, and everything else plays a vital role there. But it's just very simply.
Very simple.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that. I mean, that makes total. I mean, that's every relationship, right?
Yeah.
That's any
Very
relationship
true.
that
Yeah.
you want to maintain. I think that's just perfect.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So we're gonna go through 11 through 13. All right. So
Okay.
don't burn out. Keep yourselves fueled and aflame. Be alert servants of the master. Cheerfully expectant. Don't quit in hard times. Pray all the harder. Help needy Christians. Oh no. Already
Oh,
read that one.
yes.
Be
Yeah.
inventive in hospitality. All right. I'm gonna go through 14 through 16.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good.
Bless your enemies. This is the good one. Bless your enemies. No cursing under
Can I
your
excuse
breath.
myself at this point?
I gotta go.
Can I just
right?
step out for
This
this?
is-
Yeah, we both gotta go.
Yeah.
Laugh with your happy friends when they're happy. Share tears when they're down. Get along with each other. Don't be stuck up. That's literally in the Bible. Make
Wow.
friends with nobodies. Don't be that great somebody. Don't hit back. Discover beauty in everyone. If you've got it in you, get along with everybody. Don't insist on getting even. That's not for you to do. I'll do the judging, God says. I'll take care of it. Here we go. Our scriptures tell us that if you see your enemy hungry, go buy that person lunch. Or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good. So for me, this is huge. Because in every stage of my life so far, I realized, because God will make you uncomfortable when he's ready to promote you, right? And so, but in those promotions, that uncomfortability has come in the form of people and relationships in my life at the moment, right? And it's literally being aware of this verse. And once again, right, I'm not painting myself to be like perfect, but this is literally, I've prayed and God has showed me this series of verses because in my heart it's like I want to do something to show you that you hurt me or done wrong by me in my mind at that moment, right? And it's like, nowadays, right, it's like, I'm not a violent guy. I'm not talking about anything physical, right? But it's like I'm gonna say something on social media. I'm gonna try to defame you in some way, even if it's indirect, right? But I'm gonna try to be a nuisance. But instead, here it says, pray for the people that have wronged you. And I feel like over time, right, it might take a little bit of time, but when you genuinely like pray for someone, when you don't want to, when I don't want to, I don't have any positive feelings about you, but I'm going to do this because it's what's demanded of me, right? I'm just going to be honorable to my relationship with God. Good things, even better things have happened, even if it's just my mindset,
Wow.
my mental,
Wow.
the pressure that was on me to exact some sort of revenge, that dropped off my shoulders as soon as I said, Lord, and I was honest, and it took me a long time, and even when this particular group of people come into my mind, even now, right, I'll just be honest. I say, God, I don't want to pray for these people, but I'm going to do it because you asked me to, right? Just
Maturity.
being honest, right? Well, I'm just being as honest as I can because I don't want this on me anymore, right? And if I go into it without saying that, even though I know that that's on my mind, right? I don't want to, but I'm going to do it. I feel like a piece of that is going to remain on me, and I don't want to get all of that off because it just feels gross at this point. You know what I mean? Because I know the other side of keeping it on me. You know what I mean? So I'm learning from my past mistakes, right? So when those feelings or those thoughts come up again, I still have a choice. It's a fork in the road. I could say I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to keep driving to where I'm going, or I could say, let me stop for a second. Let me do this. Let me pray, and just get it off my shoulders completely. All right. So, that's to me, that's huge. Praying for them. I haven't gotten to the point where it's like I'm literally buying like physical, tangible gifts. But I feel like that's coming up next for me. But right now, I'm just praying for their success, for their happiness, for their safety, for their health, and I just feel like, you know what, in that regard, it does feel like just checking a box. But I'm doing the best that I can with it right now, and for me, and that gives me peace. If it didn't give me peace, I'd have to keep searching and make sure. But I know, like you said, when I have peace about a moment, even in the worst times, when I have peace, I'm like, okay, I'm going in the right direction, even though the storm is going on all around me.
I think it's a personal challenge, certainly with me, and I think with everybody, but absolutely for me. And at this stage in my life, with soon-to-be 2 grandchildren, and I think stress is a liability to longevity, and I want to be around for a while. And I think that, back to being Bitterman party of one sort of thing is stressful. Yeah. And I want to minimize that. And with the recent situation, as I shared with you, we were in court this morning with the gal who hit me. I don't like her. By the way, the longer that this can gets kicked down the road, makes me more angry.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to feel that way. And as I stare at her in court, we've never had words. I don't want to not be better, but I just can't. It's a struggle. It's a challenge.
It's
human. It's
We're
really
human.
It's
making
real.
me angry.
Yeah.
And the longer we kick the can, the more angry I get.
It's good awareness that you have. I think there's beauty in that process. I think there's beauty in that journey that you're going through. I don't think this, like, the fact that you're saying it out loud. I feel you. Like I go through the same thing. There's things that I can have resentment about and hold on to, and I can justify why it's okay, and to be like, and at the end I'll say something like, I'm still a good person. But I think the question I would pose to myself and to all of us, like what we're struggling with, is, are we doing the work to get to a place that we don't want to be? And I'm telling you right now, as walking with Jesus, it is not pretty. It's muddy. It's hard. It's like the hardest workout you have to do, and then wake up and do it all over again, right? Yeah. So, I'm gonna pray for you for what that's going through. I've been in a hit and run accident myself. I didn't. It wasn't nearly as severe as yours, but I think it's gonna be funny, but I think that there is a reason. I think you're going to talk to this person. I think that there's
Will
some.
it be behind a bar in jail? Will it be behind bars? No, I'm just.
Maybe.
I
maybe.
think that I think there's a word. There's another gate. There's another uplifting for you, especially now that you've just heard. Willie had read it, but now that it's come to your heart, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a moment God's trying to show you, like, this is your moment of blessing or praying for your enemy right here.
Yeah.
This is
you're right.
this is your hero moment, right?
It's a test.
It's a
Yeah,
test,
it's a
right?
test.
And I don't think you have to rush it. But the fact that you're acknowledging it, and now you've told us, and we're going to put you in prayer, there's something that's going to happen.
Thank you.
I truly feel that. And
We put things on our heart for a reason.
yes,
Right?
yes.
We could reason our way around and say, oh, it's nothing, oh, it's random. But it's if you stop and think, like, if he is in us, right? He is the Spirit, and the Spirit is in us.
Yeah.
Those little nudgings, right, that we talk about, right? Those little nudgings, they're not by mistake.
No,
You know?
no.
The hypocrisy for me is, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone, okay, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do?
Of course, yeah.
And then I don't do it.
Yeah.
Or I think I do, dip my toe, but it's not. It's not what Jesus would really do in that situation.
Of course. And the thing is, like, I was telling my barber this. He was like, when you get frustrated with your wife or whatnot, or whoever you're with, is like when particularly the marriage, like, you're supposed to die for your wife, right?
Yeah.
And he'll say, what did Jesus do for the church? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but I'm not Jesus. I'm Mark, and I'm trying, and the work that I can do is just go to him every day. Open this Bible up, read the Word, let the work in your heart just play out. And I think that's the blessing. I think that's part of the blessing. It's going to take a lot, because I think you and me I think we can all relate. Men who work out or love to work out, we may have a little of a temper. Maybe not you, but for me, when I get on the basketball court, I'm looking for blood.
Well, yeah, because we're competitive, right? We're it's like the warrior mentality.
The warrior
It's like
mentality,
near you,
right?
yeah.
And I think that, like, I don't think that's something to, like, be ashamed of, but I think that it just takes us longer, especially you being a philanthropist. You have a kind heart, right? But I think we're being passionate men, passionate people. Sometimes, it can linger in other areas.
Now, hold on here, player.
Okay.
Hold on here, player.
Okay.
Right?
Do I have to break you guys up? Is this going to turn into a little...
Well, no,
I have
it's
no
interesting,
idea.
right? Because
I have no
right
idea where this is
on
going.
one end, I think, right now, when I talk with Mark, right, I'm always like, I'm talking to myself. So when he
Yes.
says things, I'm like, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I talk to him, I'm really talking to myself.
Love it.
So the main thing, right?
Yes.
I feel like we just now, we just gave ourselves like a pass, right?
Oh.
Because you just said, I'm not like Jesus. I'm gonna do the best that I can. But on the other end, you just called yourself a beast, a warrior, and a man, right? A leader. So what if we take that same mentality that we have in our competitive lives, right? And we use it to honor God,
That's good.
right? Because a leader,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A leader, he
That's
doesn't
good.
say, I'm not the leader, or I'm not the leader of leaders, which is what we're doing, right? When we say, I'm not Jesus, so that's fine. No. We say, I'm a man. But not in the worldly sense that I'm a man, you're going to honor me in this and that. This is my title, and this is what I have, and this is why you should honor me. No, I'm a man, so I'm going to do what a man should do,
Wow.
which is,
Powerful.
right, submit, right, honor, forgive, because that's what's going to serve the kingdom. That's what's going to serve our homes. When we take that energy back into our homes, that's what's going to serve our children, our significant others, our business, right?
That's beautiful, man.
That's just the way that I
thank
see it.
you.
So I
Thank
think
you.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, yeah, we can't submit and then choose not to submit on the
Yes,
other end.
yes,
It's
yes,
it's
I see
either
that, yeah.
it's all encompassing.
all in.
You got to be all in, and not to say that you're not. But
No,
I think this
but that
mindset of like,
mindset, yeah,
oh,
I
I'm
needed to hear that.
gonna compartmentalize
Yes.
when I man up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Realizing
yeah,
that
yeah.
being a man isn't, sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do to win.
Yes.
We gotta do what we gotta do, right?
Yeah.
But on the other end, what if winning isn't always about, someone else's disadvantage? Right? What if it doesn't always mean that we are like putting ourselves like underneath someone else, right? What if that means we need to we need to make ourselves lower in order to lift up the mission as a whole. You know what I mean? Which on the surface, maybe our egos might not get the boost that it needs, but overall, right, our spirit does. Because now we're putting into practice what he wants us to do.
And it might not be immediate gratification of the win.
Right.
But it may happen 6, 7, 8 months, years down
We
the
are
road that
planting
you don't
the
even
seed
know about.
without worrying about the result. I feel
Yeah.
like it's all going back to that. We can't worry about the result. Plant the seed. Do what's right.
Yeah.
Because he's going to work it out for the good of those who loves him.
Man,
Well said.
Well said. And wow, well said.
Can I close in prayer?
Yeah,
I'm
please.
kidding.
No,
I'm just
this is good.
No, I was just joking.
I
No,
actually
this
wanna
is- that's
say-
a great note to end on.
Yeah,
not
I
that
just
we're,
wanna-
but go
not
ahead.
that
I know
we're
you want
ending.
to
Just say
something and
something
then,
just
yeah.
to Rich.
No, not that we're ending. I just was being
I
smart.
think if you what he just said was so beautiful. I think you say you haven't spoken to this woman, right?
That's correct.
That's right. I think that, I just wonder how powerful of a impact you would put on her once you get to that point. If you get to that point, if that's the word that you get there, and you tell her, "I forgive you."
Really?
But you know what?
Can we
If
go to
you-
the next verse?
If you, but
We go- no, just kidding. I'm just
You know
kidding,
what?
brother.
Like-
just kidding, brother.
It's not easy.
I
No,
know.
it's not
No,
easy.
I'm not
But
saying
man,
no.
but what if?
Because
what-
I'm in places, I'm in that situation too. There's people that I have to look at in the eye right now, and I am not ready to say, "I forgive you."
Yeah,
So what if
I
the
know.
first step is just praying for them?
Right.
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 Just praying for them. Because that is
That I-
genuinely what you know what I mean. Like that's
Yeah.
not you. That's not you being disingenuous.
Yes.
Now if he tells you, if he puts something in your heart to, in some
Right.
kind of capacity that
Yeah.
you need to, that's a totally different story.
Right.
But for now, what if
I can do that.
You know what I mean? You
I can do
in
that.
your own
So
way.
I will commit to you that I have yet to do so to date, is I will pray for her.
Praise God.
Okay.
The prayer
Praise God.
won't include that
Amen.
the prayer will not include that she's going to jail. How's that?
But
She's supposed to go to jail for 5 years
But
'cause
if
there's
that's
5
what's on,
felonies,
if that's
but-
what's on your heart,
Yeah, I will.
Pray-
No, I'm just being.
You know
what I'm saying?
I'm just trying to. Remember, humor is medicinal.
No, for sure, for sure.
Remember about that. So.
because he's gonna do what he's gonna do, no matter what.
We got to bring
Yeah.
him back on.
No,
No,
it's great.
no,
It's
no.
great.
Love
It's great.
But
This is
I
great.
will commit to you
Okay.
that I will pray for her because I have yet to do so.
Okay.
And I'm afraid that if I would have done so prior to today, they wouldn't have been good prayers. It would have
Hey,
been positive
you're being
prayers,
real about
right?
it.
So,
Yeah, we get that,
And
yeah.
I'm a big every consequence and outcome guy. I
Yes.
think every action has a consequence, so to speak.
For sure.
Whether biblical or not, and accountability.
But at
is
least
a
you're
big
adding him
con-
to the equation, though.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
So I will pray for. Candidly, she's a single mom of 2 kids,
Yeah.
2 young kids.
Made a
Lives in an
horrible mistake.
apartment in Santa Ana. And if I'm going to walk the talk of being a philanthropist for children, as my wife and I have done for the last 30 plus years,
Wow.
then shame on me for not walking that talk because single mom, 2 kids.
Yeah.
Something that I always think about. I try to think about. Right. Say, I make
Proud of you.
I
I love you, brother.
say
Thanks.
I make a mistake. Right. Doesn't really matter what it is. Right. On one end, you're gonna have your advocates, your people that know you and care about you, that's around you. Right. They're gonna say he's a great guy, whatever. But he made a mistake. Right. Now the people that I affected are gonna say, horrible person, made a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
Throw away and lock away the key, right? So it's like, it depends on how our lens is based on what side of action that
Right.
we're on that was taken. So
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you what to do in any regard. Cannot imagine, going through that. But right, God is a God of grace. God is a God of mercy, and for your heart, right? For our hearts, that's why that's in there. It's for
us.
us so that we can have. And I'm not saying that you don't have peace. You're lovely. You're a lovely man, and this is our first time meeting. And I look
Don't
forward.
ask.
I look forward to
My
this
wife will
relationship.
disagree with that. But,
Well, I think so will all of our partners.
Yeah.
to some degree, right? But with that being said, you know what I mean. Just for we're called because he tells us everything, to do that according to the word. It's it's for His glory, but it's for us, right? To be able to walk this earth with peace and love in our hearts, because that's the best way for all this whole puzzle piece thing to
Puzzle
come
piece,
together.
yes.
You know what I mean? And so, let's close out in prayer.
Yeah.
And let's just pray for the things that we really need. Let's drop. And I'm not saying anything about you, but let's pray for us to be vulnerable, right? Drop our egos and really serve the mission. Serve the mission.
Yeah.
Yes.
Serve the mission, right? Because once again, if you weren't you, right, and you were, on the other side of this, right, and you knew her, say you knew her personally, you might be saying, great person, made a mistake. I'm
Right.
super unfortunate. Maybe. It just really sucks. But I think in these moments of like where it's really hard to do the
To do the
right thing
yeah.
or do something of that nature, this is the real test.
It's a test.
This is the
absolutely.
real test,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we can go through it at any phase
Yeah.
of our lives. And you've been going through this for a long time. All right. I do this with Mark all the time. So forgive me. Please forgive me in advance if I'm overstepping. But what if he's right? You've been going through this for, right? How many?
A year and a half.
A year and a half?
Yeah.
What if it's taken so long because he's trying to soften your heart just to pray for her?
Yeah.
He keeps bringing you around this mountain as a test.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Amen.
The legal system sucks and it
Yeah.
drags, right? I'm sure there's some of that. But what if we're kind of dragging our feet on our own, and we could be doing more if we just pray? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So forgive me.
I accept.
but
You
that's
don't.
just-
No, you don't accept. I accept that challenge.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't
Nice.
say thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to be part of this.
Oh,
No,
What
this
a
was
blessing.
special.
It's just
No,
great to get to
you-
know you guys, and I hope we get to do it again.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Who?
So
we wanna-
as our guest,
yeah,
would you like
please,
to
would you
close
end
us out
up
in prayer?
with-
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Beautiful.
Heavenly Father, just express our gratitude to this, Father. Thank you so much for bringing us together this morning, praising your word, keeping our spiritual compass dead reckoned on you and your kingdom, Lord. We have countless blessings to be thankful for, and we just know that you're in control of everything, Lord. I'm going to pray for my brothers here and their families, and you know their individual prayer requests, Father, and I'm going to ask for favor that you address and answer all of our prayer requests as you know what's on our hearts right now, Lord. I want to bless their ministry, bless their professions, and Lord, just keep us safe, keep us healthy, keep us in your word until we meet again. And I pray that in your heavenly name.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That was
Amazing.
Pleasure.
amazing.
Amazing.
That was awesome.
I'll give you an air. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Wow.
That was great. Thank you, guys. I
No,
really,
no.
really enjoyed that.
No, that was nice.
I think I enjoyed that more.
We didn't go too far off the.
No, we were on there. We were on there.
Yeah.
And we got the magician over there.
I
Gotta
wasn't
figure it
too
out.
wordy.
Yeah, no,
I
it was
just
good.
hope it was a benefit.
No, the
You're-
way they're
you're-
gonna cut it
yeah.
up in slices is gonna be
You're-
very good.
yeah, but
This
you
was-
were
this was fun. Thank you
inspiration,
so much.
man.
Good. No,
Appreciate your
You're
time.
an inspiration.
Especially today, like that's crazy.
What's
you know,
that?
like you made time on a day like
No,
today.
it's,
you know?
no, this is what it's all about. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Can we exchange like numbers? Can we?
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because you're what you I didn't want to say this on camera.